Are you a spender or a saver? Do you enjoy buying new things, retail therapy, whether you need them or not, those new packages on your porch every day that Amazon delivers? Or are you a saver? Do you like to hold things back, not spend things, and just gather them up, to hoard them together so that you can sleep at night, to have peace, financial peace? Well, there's an alternative. An alternative that, if you don't embrace it, if we don't get it right, robs us of our future. So invest in the like button, give it a tap, and we'll find out what it is. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show. And throughout my life, I've seen and learned from the hard realities of not knowing an alternative to saving or spending as the two ways, and only two ways, I could do something with my money. When I was younger, I saw a lot of older Americans who had survived the post-traumatic stress of the Great Depression and World War II. And when they finally got some money, they spent it because they never had money before, and they just bought things and sold away their future by buying things that they could never afford before, and they felt better about themselves. Or they became hoarders, collectors, figurines, coins, plates, everything in those curio cabinets, those lighted curio cabinets filled with expensive things that are worth nothing today. In a recent release of data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the headline reads, "Americans are getting older." And that's bad news, unless you're older, and then I guess it's good news. What's disturbing about that number is not just that America is getting older and we're having fewer babies, which is happening, and that maybe Social Security won't be funded because they've already taken the money and spent it on other things. Shame on them, but yes, that's the reality. What's disturbing is that most Americans today, even as they're getting older, have nothing invested in their future. Here are the numbers. More than 55% of the U.S. population is age 35 and older, with 25.7% in the 20-year group from age 35 to 54, and 20% in the age group 55 and older. In terms of actual numbers, of the 320 million plus in the U.S. population, according to the most recent U.S. Census, in the 35 and older age group, the upper half of the average age life expectancy of mid-70s in the U.S., it accounts for 136 million, but here's the number that should scare us. That 100 million American households out of the 125 estimated U.S. households, that's 4 out of 5, have nothing invested in their future, nothing saved, nothing in an IRA, nothing in a retirement or pension. Yep, 4 out of 5 American households have no future planned. And with American consumer debt at all-time highs of $17 trillion and personal credit card debt at all-time highs of $1 trillion, the future doesn't look good. Now, if you're ready to blame inflation, yes, inflation is part of it, but it's not just or mostly inflation that's doing this. For lower income Americans, yes, inflation is a disproportionate burden on them for things like gas and groceries and transportation costs. Yes, it's all there. And for richer Americans, it doesn't affect them. That milk might be $3 a gallon versus $6 a gallon doesn't affect you if you make over $100,000 a year. But if you're in that lower income bracket, which the average American income is below $50,000 for mid-career people, yes, inflation is, as economists have always said, a tax on the poor. And this difficult time, this is when fortunes are made. Not for you and me, but for the rich who get richer. You see, Warren Buffett said, "We don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out." And the more we have on credit cards, and credit bureaus are reporting that more groceries are charged to credit cards every single week during this inflationary period. And that means that things that we would usually pay cash for because we thought it's stupid to put it on a credit card and pay interest on top of the interest I'm paying called inflation, well, we're doing more of that. And also, defaults, missed payments, late payments are increasing according to credit bureaus. That is, in this tough environment, it seems impossible to even get started to change and invest in your future. Now, I've walked through things like how to find extra money, how to make extra money, how to earn extra money, how to get paid more in your job, and I'll tag those videos at the end of this video. But for right now, I want to go through the basics for us about, okay, in this tough environment, what can we do to actually get to an alternative to spending or saving? Now, the basics include paying yourself first. That is, start with 10%. Before you pay somebody else, before you give away your money to make other people rich, take 10% of the money you've earned and put it aside. What you do with it, that's coming next. Now, that also means if you get an increase in the amount of money you make, maybe you do get an increase to reflect the inflationary environment. The temptation is just to spend it and to increase our standard of living. And that's where we fall behind. That's where, even if we try to begin, that's where we stumble. If we get more money, we shouldn't spend more money. We should maintain our standard of living, even with the inflationary bump, and take that difference and put that difference to work for us. So that means not spending, not buying more or buying better or upgrading, even though you deserve it. It means acting smart in a time when everything else is dumb. You see, when we spend, we're helping other people get rich, for them to put their kids through college, to buy new things, to get that house or that second house or buy a new car. When we spend, we are making ourselves poorer and we are making other people richer. But when we save, because we think that's our only alternative, we're actually robbing ourselves of our own future. So here are the basics. If you're not sitting in front of a computer monitor all day tracking stock prices and studying charts with Bloomberg or CNN playing in the background, the basics are to find good, solid investments and to invest in them to build your position in them. Companies that you know and have a strong balance sheet. Now, balance sheet, that's fancy language, and you're like, I don't know what a balance sheet is. Sure you do. You have a bank account, right? You look at it. Debits and credits, you know what you have left over, what's in your account. You can look it up on your phone. That's the balance sheet. That shows you, and you know I'm getting paid in a week, or I'll have this much money, or I have this bill due. That's a balance sheet. And companies have the same thing, and it's available to us. And what we're looking for is the same thing we look for in our financial health, and that is how much debt do they have and how much interest do they pay to service that debt. You see, the difference between, for example, a zero interest credit card and a credit card with a 28% interest rate. One of them is better debt than the other. And that is, companies sometimes carry debt. Most companies do carry debt because they can leverage it and get more money, and they make more money than they have to pay in interest. That rarely happens at our end of the pay scale, but when it does happen to a company, most companies carry debt. So that's not the issue, it's how much they're paying on the debt. Some companies have almost no debt, like Amazon. Some companies have huge balance sheets, like Apple and Alphabet, aka Google, just to start with the A's. And those are three, for example, growth stocks. And growth stocks are the stocks that pay us, reward us with an increase in the stock price to own them. And we're not running after odd flyers, this pharma company waiting for an FDA release, hoping for that home run. We're investing in things that we can put money in, keep putting money in, and sleep at night. That is a solid growth stock investment. The alternative is a value stock. And a value stock are usually legacy companies that have been around for a while, and they take their profits and they return them to people who own the stock in the form of a dividend, usually paid quarterly. And the basics of that for building positions in a value stock are that you establish, or you click on yes to the dividend reinvestment program that most online investment platforms have. And that is, if I get a dividend from a company of, say, $40 for owning the stock, maybe 50 shares of the stock, then a dividend reinvestment automatically buys $40 worth of that same company. So I'm not buying and holding, I'm buying and building. And by doing so on a regular basis, I'm doing something called DCA, dollar cost averaging. Whether the stock price is up or down, I continue to average in it. Why? Because the adage in the market, the time in the market beats timing the market, again, is an investment in our future. The S&P 500, the top 500 companies that comprise what most people call the stock market in America, has returned an average of more than 11% annually. We're not getting that return by putting our money in a bank, in our local bank that pays us less than 1% interest. Even if we get a high yield interest account, we're only making 4 or 5% in today's climate. With interest rates, if you want to buy a house, you're going to pay 7.5% just to borrow money today. So you're going to lose money if you just save your money. That's the hit of inflation, and that's the difference between what it actually costs to live and what people will reward us for just hoarding our money. Now, if you started like this when you were young and you stuck with it through your life, you're probably nodding along saying, yes, I'm right, and I'm watching a video like this to reward myself and say, see, I told you so. But the majority of Americans, the majority of us, you probably, are not in that position. So the beginning is today, to start. There's an old adage, when's the best time to plant a tree? The best time was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Whatever you do, it needs to start today. And that whatever you do should be investing in yourself. And this learning to invest in our future is the hardest psychological barrier that Americans face, that we face, that you face in changing the behavior which can actually change our money story. And like I said, I've done a video on how to get started and the basics and alternatives of opportunities to put money to work so that we can make money while we sleep instead of just trading our time for money and running out of time and therefore limiting the amount of money that we can make. Learning to invest in ourselves has no limit once we put the money to work. And I'll be sure to tag that video at the end of this. And thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button, invest in that because it really helps. And while you're down there, how about you subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode. I'm so glad you found me and I found you. Thanks.